Hey, welcome back, everybody. It's time once again to embark on what we call our weekly journey, Living Hope. Your journey living with pancreatic cancer. How real people deal with it on a daily basis, including a couple of survivors here today, like our host, Roberta Luna. Welcome, Roberta, again.
Thank you, Paul. I'm glad you continue to have me back every week. It's really nice of you. Thank
For
you.
those listening live, we're late this morning. We had some confusion, some chaos, some technical issues, but we're glad you're still hanging in there with us. And tell us who you brought with you, Roberta.
Yes. Well, since June is National Cancer Survivor Month, we've been celebrating survivors all month long. And today I have Gerri Weiner, a 3-year pancreatic cancer survivor, with us, who will share her journey. Welcome, Gerri. Thank you for joining us today. I know your diagnosis came a little bit unexpectedly. Geez, I'm tongue-tied. After a routine CT scan. Maybe I better just let you talk. So if you just kind of share with us, if you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and before you're diagnosed, that would be nice to hear.
Oh, sure. Thank you, Roberta, so much for asking me to be on. It's always an honor and a privilege. And, just I love being an example of giving pancreatic cancer survivors hope because when you hear the word pancreatic, it's instant death sentence. In 2012, my dad, who was super healthy, literally bent over one day in so much pain and discovered that he had stage 4 pancreatic cancer. And that was my first experience with it, and literally went through the journey with him, which I'll talk about a little bit later. And ironically, in 2021, I was 58 years old, and I've always been blessed to be healthy, just strong and healthy, and I don't have diabetes, don't have high blood pressure. And my younger brother kept bothering me to get a colonoscopy. And I'm like, I don't need to. Like, colon cancer doesn't run in our family. And I did those at-home tests, and my GP said that they were fine, like they all came back negative. So, I swear to God, doesn't matter what the motivations were. I went to go get one to shut him up so he could stop ragging on me. So I go and I get it. And the first thing that happens when I wake up is the doctor says, okay, it's not cancer. So I'm like, okay. And she was new at doing this. And she just said, she goes, there's a curve or something in your colon, and I can't go through with, I can't complete it. So will you go get a CT scan? I'm like, fine, no biggie. So I get a CT scan, and it was the day before Thanksgiving, 2021. And I joked with my husband before I left. I'm like, Chuck, this is so stupid. I'm going to go drink this horrible stuff, get the CT scan. It's going to say nothing, but we're not going to hear about it for 2 to 3 weeks because tomorrow's Thanksgiving and all this other stuff. So I go and I get it, and I get a call 2 hours later. And it's the doctor. And she goes, well, your colon's fine. She goes, but we see a shadow on your pancreas. And I will never forget that sentence. And it was, I'll never forget. It was like 6:45 p.m. And she goes, you need to call the imaging center and get an MRI set up right away. And the poor doctor, I was like, you don't understand. My dad had pancreatic cancer. Like, I was just like in shock. And, that started the journey. And, I'm grateful. I just knew I had to get into action. There was no like, okay, I'm freaked out about this, I'm not going to take action. So literally got into action. There were so many angels on my side because the doctor said it was only in my body 6 months. I had absolutely no symptoms. Is it the CA nine?
CA
C
19.9.
99. Thank you. I should know that. Like they say, if the indicator is above 35 in your blood, then that says you have pancreatic cancer. Mine was 4.62. So it would have never been found. And then another situation was went to go get the MRI, brought my CT scan to compare it. And then about a week and a half later, we get the results. The MRI doesn't show anything. So my husband and I are like, oh, thank God. It was a false positive. So we're all like, okay, don't worry about it. Not a big thing. And the inexperienced GI doctor called me because she looked in, she followed up on me, and she said, Gerri, they never compared the MRI to the CT scan. And so had to call them back. And then when they did that, then they said, okay, there's something there. So I could have fallen through the cracks on so many instances. And for whatever reason, I didn't. And then it was just take action. I had the Whipple surgery. Luckily, I was, a candidate for the Whipple surgery, uh, January 19th, and started chemo March 1st and did chemo for 6 months. You know, I can't say it was a pleasant experience, but the care and the support was unbelievable. It was just amazing. The Hirschberg Foundation. So I became aware of the Hirschberg Foundation when my dad was diagnosed because I'm a person who has to get into action. Like I felt so powerless about my dad's diagnosis. And so I literally Googled pancreatic cancer run. And so this was August of 2012. And literally the LA Cancer Challenge 5K October event came up, and it was just so me, because Halloween's my favorite holiday. I had two young kids. They have such a great kid experience there. And I just immediately, started fundraising and we did that. My dad was alive for uh 18 months. So he did two of them, which was just a great memory. And at that experience, I met Sarah Banks, like long lost sisters. We were like immediate friends, and it was just amazing. And then it was so weird, like 9 years later, calling her and like going, Hi, I don't know how to gently say this, but I have pancreatic cancer. And the whole foundation, all the services they offer. I mean, when my dad was going through it, I went through, caregiver therapy, which was unbelievable. And now it was weird because I was the patient, but the classes, the services, the support they offered me and my family, just, it's Roberta, as you know, it is like it brings up so much emotion. I mean, thank God today, if you get diagnosed with breast cancer, there is such a great survival rate, you know, um, colon cancer. I mean, I've known people that it's like it was diagnosed and now the recovery is amazing. But I am very cautious about who I say to people that, oh, I had pancreatic cancer, because they look like I'm, dead man walking kind of thing. And what I love is there's been so many advances in medicine that, I mean, you're 23 years, so you're just a flippin' miracle. Um, but I just have such a positive attitude that it's like it's not going to come back. You know, it's just not. And like when we went and spoke at the symposium, there are just so many, I hate the word survivor because it just I don't know. It just bothers me. I love the word thriver. We are just thriving, and we're really getting a movement that is saying pancreatic cancer is not the silent killer anymore. And it's thank God for podcasts like this. It's like you are showing people and having sharing experiences for people so that, with pancreatic cancer, so they can have hope, So 3 years later, I've graduated to only having an annual CAT scan. Uh, And I don't know, Roberta, if you've had this, but in a weird, oh, here's a fun experience. So I was in New York about 2 weeks ago, and I had just gone through this like MBA program, not it's a business MBA program. And we went to a Memorial Day party, and we used to live in New Jersey. So we have a lot of friends and family there. And so I'm at this party and I'm talking about the Goldman Sachs experience. And this guy who I haven't seen for a couple years, kept looking at me and he goes, so how are you? And I'm like, oh my God, I'm on a high from this experience. It was so amazing. And I looked at him and he just looked really weird. And I'm like, okay, I'm not answering his question. And I go, oh, the pancreatic cancer thing? I'm like, oh, whoa, whoa. And I'm like, because he goes, you did have it, right? And I was like, oh, and it was the first time in 3 years that I didn't connect. That's what he was referring to, that my life has just been so amazing since then, and obviously this is a cause which is so close to my heart. The LA Cancer Challenge 5K is at UCLA this year and on October 26th. And anyone who's listening, come out, support it, Google it. It is so much fun, especially if you have kids. I'm telling you, my kids who are now teens still talk about it. And it's a great, positive, uplifting experience.
It really is. We've done it for a number of years. In the last, actually, I think 3 years, Living Hope has actually been a proud sponsor. So I'm really
I
happy.
love that.
I'm really happy to do that, and it is a great event. And I want to give a shout out to your pesty brother for continuing to pester you, because that I think was the start of everything. So see, it's good sometimes when the younger brother or the younger sibling is a nag, right? So
Yeah,
I'm glad.
exactly. Oh, and sorry, I just wanted to say this. They did genetic testing. I did not even, I'm like, how could I get pancreatic cancer? It's not hereditary. And when they did genetic testing, there was nothing between me and my dad. And even lifestyle, we led completely different lifestyles. So it's so weird and so random, that would happen. And now my brothers go, I think it's once every 3 years, and have a scan and a test, just because out of a family of five, for two to be diagnosed, it's like you can't let anything, just leave it up to fate.
No, you can't. You have to be proactive. You have to really take care of yourself. It's like I'm also a family of five and the only survivor, unfortunately, fortunately for me, but of five, the four that did not survive. And my dad was very, very much like your dad, very healthy. I never saw him take an aspirin. He never missed a day of work. And to be diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, it was like a shock, and we really didn't know how to
Yes.
handle it. And at that time, 1998, there was, the odds were like, well, just go home, get your house in order because he's not going to survive it, which
Yeah.
unfortunately he only survived a couple of weeks. But, learning from that and continuing like you to be positive and say, I'm not going to be on that end of the spectrum. I'm going to be the survivor, thriver. And what I love about Hirschberg, especially Aggie, she doesn't like to
Oh,
talk about the statistics at all. She wants to look always at the positive, which is something that I think we really need to do. But speaking about, because you said you do have, kids, are you concerned about them now that you know that they're, even though there's no genetic connection, but just are you concerned about them at all? And are they thinking or getting tested and looked at?
they're young. They're 20 and 17, and I don't think it's a need right now, but they are very aware, of my dad and me, and so it will be in the conversation as something, genetically, because it's so random. I mean, Roberta, for the four other people in your family to have pancreatic cancer is just, it's mind blowing.
It was, and the thing that was so strange is it was my dad, his mom, and his younger brother, and they had all the androcarcinoma, the more aggressive type. And my mom was
Right.
diagnosed with neuroendocrine, which is the less aggressive type, and I present with both types, which is even a smaller percentage. So we can't, and we've done the genetic testing too, and it's always come back inconclusive, so we can't say. But it's almost like there has to be a connection somewhere, something, but we
Yeah.
can't put our thumb on it. So unfortunately, I guess the roulette wheel just kept stopping on our number. But yeah, and I have well, sons too, and I'm very concerned about them because if you catch it early, then we have a much better chance, right?
Right, exactly. And the thing I also want to say, which my experience was, and I know Hirschberg and cancer support community are working on it, was even though it was only a couple of years ago, they do have a pancreatic cancer support group. And I went on it a couple times, but my experience at the time was the people who were on the group and were getting support literally had, like, if not months, weeks to live. And so when I got on there and listened, I didn't talk because I felt so guilty, because I'm like, okay, I was stage 2B. Everybody, my doctors are like, you're going to have a positive experience. So I really think, podcasts like this, there needs to be more of them because I had a hard time finding people I related to, the survivors. And so once I got connected with Hirschberg, it was like an Aggies, August summer soiree where there's all thrivers there. I was like, oh my God. And like, I would have never thought that someone with 23 years was because, I'm not sure what year you were diagnosed, but at the same time, it's like at that time, like you said, go home, get your things in order. So I'm really thrilled that you asked me to be on this and that I get to, share my experience
Yeah.
and hopefully, like you said, living hope.
Yeah, and it's important because people do need to know that yes, we do survive. It's not an easy road, but we do manage to do it. And to hear from others, and I have the same experience as you. I have horrible survivor guilt, and a lot of times it's like I don't always come out and say I'm a survivor. I kind of wait to see where the family is because you never know how they're
Hmm.
going to react. But except for one occasion, most of it has been really positive where, I was surprised that they grabbed me and hugged me and was so thankful that I was, surviving. And even though they had lost somebody, it was a really nice experience. But again, it's just because you just never know. And when people ask, why are you surviving and mine didn't? There's no answer. I mean, I wish I had an answer, but I don't. The best thing I can say is God's not done with me yet. He wants me here to do something. And maybe this is it, is to hopefully
I was just going to
give you
say that.
hope. I hope that's the reason, like, and yourself, your story is very, like I said, you go in for a simple procedure just because, and then they find it. So it's important. It's important for the early detection. You talk about the Whipple. Can you kind of tell people a little bit what you experienced through the Whipple? Because I know there's so many different experiences, but I just like to kind of share that because I mean, I know those that are watching can see how great you look, but those who are going to listen, I just want you to know you look awesome. You look beautiful. So if you could just tell us a little bit about the Whipple.
Thank you. Well, thank God for being naive. God for shock. First of all, it's so important to get multiple consultations. Um, like I went to all extremely qualified doctors, but for me, it also had to be a personal connection. And I think Dr. Newson over at Cedars was my third consultation, and I knew immediately. I'm like, he's the guy. It just feels right. And they did the robotic Whipple. He explained it to me. Honestly, I don't even know how many times, but because I was in shock, I just was like, I literally thought, okay, they're gonna go in like with an ice cream scoop and like take out the tumor and that'll be it. And this was also during COVID. So my surgery got rescheduled like twice and then finally, like mine was the only operation that day. So I guess my surgery was around 6 hours. I have six different incisions. I mean, it's
Mm.
fascinating what technology. Of course, my husband like researched the whole thing and looked up the machine. But they went in, they had six different incisions. They cut out the tumor. Uh, they got rid of my gallbladder because I guess you don't need it. They took off the head of the pancreas and then they, I believe, reattached my small intestines to my pancreas. And they also took out like a bunch of lymph nodes. So, uh, being in the hospital was not fun, but I was very blessed. I mean, I could have been in there up till 12 days. I was out after 5.
Wow.
And the thing I want to say is, I really honestly, after day 4, and I wish I was told this, like days 1 through 4 were horrible. But after day 4, like for some reason, I just took a turn and felt better. Um, and the thing that surprised me most, I was not in pain after day 4, but the weakness, I just to walk. And I'm, at the time I'm like 58 years old, so, and in good health. So just to walk to the bathroom was draining, and I'm someone who's go, go, go. So it was very frustrating because my brain was like, hey, let's get out there. And really tired. And I have to give a shout out to my husband. He, if I want to be in any foxhole, it's his. He was so supportive. I know Vic was a superstar with you. And so, against my will, he did get me out every day and like have me walk around the block, our block. Granted, I think it may have taken 45 minutes, but it's like, it's not the thinking anymore of, oh, I've had surgery. Now I need to lay in bed and I need to recoup. It's like, no, get back out there, acknowledge the limitations. So this may sound weird, but if I had just had the surgery, literally, like it took me a month to start getting energy back. That would have been great. It was the chemo that was really intense, and I get it. And just anyone who is going through chemo, especially if you're doing the FU5, which I think is appropriately named,
Very much so.
um, they started me out at 100%. And if you've never gone through it, it's like people can explain it to you, but you don't know. And so I think it was a Tuesday, and I remember like Wednesday, my husband and I both thought, we're like, they didn't put, oh, because I had to go home with this pack, and you go back a day later, so it's pumping chemo into your body for 2 days. We literally thought they didn't put chemo into me because I'm like, I feel fine. They did water. It's a placebo. Something's going on. Well, Thursday morning, it hit. I ended up, they nearly hospitalized me. I mean, I was so dehydrated from throwing up. It was not a good experience at all. Luckily they took me back. I had to go and get the pack removed. They had to hydrate me. They had to do all this stuff. And for some reason, Zolfran and I forget what the other one was, they gave me so much of it. And it just personally for me, it didn't work, you know. Um, so they then lowered the dose and they just said, they're like, we have to start you out at 100% just to see how you're doing. And I'm like, if you had given me a heads up, that would have been really great. But it's not on them. It's just, it's anxiety. It's not knowing. That's the thing I think is, I don't think people can really explain it to you until you've gone through it. I mean, halfway through, my husband just said to me, he's like, what does it feel like? What does chemo feel like? And I'm like, it took me a minute and I just said, you're not going to understand this, but I feel like my soul is being sucked out of my body. He just said, it's an experience unlike any other. Um, so I'd say that was definitely that was the hardest. And then the other thing, because I didn't know about Living Hope, the other thing was once chemo stopped and they say, oh, this is another thing, Roberta, I don't know if you got this, but we go through the final CAT scan and I meet with my oncologist and he comes in and he goes, okay, the results are unremarkable. And so I looked at him and I'm like, is that a good unremarkable or is that a bad unremarkable? I have now since embraced the word unremarkable, but it's kind of like now you're done. You've had 6 months of your life on this routine, and then it's just like, okay, you're done, and go back to normal life. And it it really took me 6 months to a year to mentally like readjust because it's a life-changing experience. So, you know, I have definitely implemented new beliefs since then. I don't sweat the small stuff. I don't put up with jerks who, I come across. I only have people in my life who want to, you know, have a relationship with me. And it's just I have a much more positive attitude. You know, I deal Amy at Hirschberg, Amy Rice was so great because I was talking to her at Tour de Peer, my first Tour de Peer after my chemo. And I had the experience, Roberta, I don't know if you did, but it's kind of like I would have people come up to me that had a loved one die of pancreatic cancer. And then they would hear that I had pancreatic cancer. And then they felt they wanted to share their experience, like, oh my God, my aunt, got diagnosed and then she died. And I just was like, okay, survivor guilt. And and then I was talking to Amy because I had an upcoming CT scan and I'm like, I just get so sick, like, anxious. And she goes, Gerri, there's a word for it. And I'm like, okay. And she goes, it's scanxiety.
Yep.
I'd never heard of it. I loved it, because it's the not knowing. Part of me is like, okay, there's not going to be anything and I'm fine. And then there's always that chance. There's like, this is such an unpredictable cancer that who knows? But I can't live in that world. I acknowledge to myself that a couple of days before my CT scan, I'm going to be on edge. And it's like, okay.
Yeah, we have to do that. And unfortunately, we're running out of time, but I want to have you come back because I want to continue this conversation because there's so much more and you're such an inspiration. And I would really love for people to hear the rest and to talk more. So I hope you can come back and join us. I would really love that.
I would love to.
Well, thank you for sharing your strength and you're truly inspiring. And I'm sure people will listen and watch this and really just know that, yes, there is hope for pancreatic cancer thrivers. So thank you for joining us. I really do appreciate it. As long as you speak my name, I shall live forever is dedicated to Gerri's father, Jimmy Murphy. Thank you.
Well, there you have it. One more reason to tune in each and every time to this journey we call Living Hope. Sharing the real life stories of those really living with this deadly disease and how they deal with it on a daily basis. And if you know somebody that needs help dealing with it today, lots of organizations. We mentioned one, the Hirschberg Foundation up at UCLA. Simply look up pancreatic.org. Pancreatic.org, and you can find out more about all the services they offer and the help and support they can give you and information. And as for us, we're hoping you come back and join us each and every week as we continue down this path we call Living Hope. Streaming live from our studios here at the University of California, Irvine's Beale Applied Innovation Center.